Well, I will, good evening everyone, and welcome to our select board meeting tonight. The first thing I would do is accept a motion to accept the minutes of August 14th. However, we are going to table that as Stephen was not here and Josh was, and now I'm the only one here to vote on it. We'll continue without that motion and move right into new business. And first up is the Solar RFP.
So
Who's speaking to this first?
In your packet,
yep.
I was just going to go over the comparisons that I did.
Okay.
And then I guess probably the best thing to do is direct questions to Peter and Mike. And so...
Mike?
Yeah.
Peter.
I don't know if you guys have any questions on the comparisons. I mean, I did... went through both proposals and kind of picked out the things that I thought there may be other things that are important that I missed. I know one of the bottom line, what we were talking about at the last meeting was me coming up with the financial data. The last page of this kind of gives a overview of the amount of that each system will generate for kilowatt hours times what the rates are, you know, what that would mean to us as far as credits that would be available to us, and then what it would cost for us to purchase those credits from either company. The overall difference comes down to a savings with the estimations. I mean, this is all estimates, sure, obviously. The overall difference between the two plans is Sovereign's is a little better by about $500. And that's because of the amount generated by the system, the different sizes of the system.
Because you two have gotten it closer.
I know.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. So I think probably just questions to the two that are here. I think I've pretty well spelled out. I had both of them check my comparisons, and did you guys find anything that I need to correct or that didn't seem, wasn't what your proposal said? I guess.
There was just one really minor thing on the first page in the box that says size of system. It says 500 kW dash and then 185 kilowatt DC. That would actually be an AC number. But the bottom line is what you described here is correct, that this system would provide 100% of the town's energy requirements, with some ability to adjust it over time.
On the back page, it shows that Sovereign comes out ahead by about $500, but it shows Sovereign is building a smaller system. We're quite willing to build a system just that meets exactly your needs, and the amount that you would come out will be proportionately larger from Sovereign. So you're getting $500 for a smaller ahead, but for a smaller system, because we're proposing to put in a 150 kilowatt system and then put in a second system to meet the rest of your need, rather than to try to put it all under one 500 kilowatt that you'll have to share the ownership with other people.
Those wouldn't be in conjunction though. They wouldn't be at the same time, right?
We would probably, depending on when the sites show up, we would probably build one of them first and then build the other one. The other one afterwards. It would just increase the difference between our proposals by about 10%. If you compare similarly sized systems.
The one thing I don't know if I probably need to explain, I was having a hard time, the equipment part of it. There was the integrated gave me one type of equipment, and then Sovereign had like an option 1 and 2. That's why it has the 1, 2. That's what that means
Right.
next to it. I don't know if that was really clear in the.
I would just say that both integrated solar and our equipment is considered tier 1 solar equipment. I wouldn't know how to choose between them. So that's what's better. There's another thing. It says that length of contract is 50 years. You're not actually entering into a contract where you have to do it. Does it say 50 or am I just reading it under?
No, that's the question I had.
Right.
No, that's what it.
Yeah, you're not entering into it. It's just that we're proposing that the system will continue.
The lifetime of the
out
system.
50 years.
Right.
And as long as it keeps on going.
So is there a length to your contract though? When the contract comes to us, does it have a start date and or an end date?
No, it just has the contract that says that you can keep on getting the power from it for 50 years. And you have options to purchase every 7
Okay.
years.
Every 7 years.
Of those 50 years.
So the first contract would be for 20 years with integrated, and for 7 years with.
I don't know. I guess that's where I need clarification. It says in the proposal, it says the length of the net metering credit purchase contract shall be set for 50 years.
Yeah, that just means that you guys keep on getting it. That's what we predict the life of the system will be. And you can keep on getting the credit if you don't purchase it for that.
So could we get out of it any year that we want to? Like at the end of the first year, we say, nope, this isn't for us. Not saying that we would. I'm just.
Right. You're going to be getting electricity for less than retail rate.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for us to understand why you would ever want to get out of it. But if you do, you can get out.
Okay, so as long
We'll
as
find
that's written
somebody
in
else who
there.
would be happy to get less than retail rate electricity.
Right.
So is there a contract or is there not a contract for electricity in this instance?
I don't
There's not a contract.
And that's for both systems? Or
I don't know what
is that-
mine is.
No.
Yeah, I mean, for us, absolutely. I mean, frankly, I don't think you'll find a financing entity who would back a finance deal like this for a non-disclosed term.
Would you actually speak up?
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, absolutely. The deal would be for a 20-year term with renewals at years 7, 15, and 20. And then there's an appropriations clause that the town can exercise if you so choose to get out of the deal. The reality with these third-party finance deals, from our experience and what we've seen in market trends, is you're not going to find a financing entity that will go into an agreement without a term date or a service date. I mean, they have to recoup their investments, and so they're going to, I mean, I've never seen that happen.
But that's on your end. In other words, you have contracts with your investors to bring money into a development, and then you build the system, but you're actually working with a town in this case. So what I'm asking is, are there contracts that you have with the town directly or with other entities that buy power through your system?
Yeah, the power purchase agreement, if you will, would be between the town and Green Lantern, who is the finance entity. The contracts that we have as an installer are with Green Lantern Capital for building maintenance, EPC contractual requirements.
I guess my question would be about that is, can we get a contract? Because I would be uncomfortable not having a contract.
Sure.
Only because of a particular rate and a particular percentage discount that we're being offered. I would want that in some type of document.
That is in the net meter purchase agreement. That you can.
So the agreement is not a contract for a certain length of
Basically,
time.
what I'm saying is that you have the right to either buy it or keep on leasing it, essentially, or to walk away. You're not bound at all, but there's a contract that says you do have the right to keep on receiving the net metering credits as long as the system is functioning. So there is a contract. There's a 50-year contract on your benefit. It just doesn't require you to do anything. You don't have to promise to buy the credits for 50 years. They're just promising to sell them to you for 50 years if you want. So there will be a contract. You'll get a contract that says you can get net meter credits as long as the system is functioning.
So you won't lock that price in for 50 years.
The,
I'm not really suggesting.
well, actually, we will, because what we're giving you is simply a function of the net meter credit that's generated by the system. You'll continue to receive, and whatever that credit is, you'll keep 88% of it and give the investor 12%.
Then, just if I understand this correctly, so if, let's say for whatever reason,
Yep.
we opt out in a year, what about that you've got a 150 kilowatt farm out there, what happens then to it?
Then we have to go and find somebody else.
So it's in a sense, not having a contract with us is a risk for you.
Yeah.
Right.
It reverts to us. We have the right to allocate those credits to whatever meters in the Green Mountain Power System wanted.
Okay.
So we would go, we'd go down to cutting paper and say, would you like to buy $100,000 worth of or $40,000 of electricity for next year for $35,000? And they would look at it and see if the deal was real, and they'd probably say yes.
Okay.
So how does that work? Are you in contract with your financing entity for the power agreement?
No, the financing entity is willing to take the risk that the town is going to walk away because they know that the net meter credits are still there.
And they'll do that without any contractual terms?
I'm a little bit, I'm not, I would like to talk to the financer about that. I've never heard that before in any of these proposals. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Makes you uncomfortable that you can walk away anytime you want?
No, I just have not heard of anybody that was willing to allow us to do that. That makes me, I'm questioning it. It's just not the way that the proposals have been. I don't know.
Well, these are the first financing people that I've talked
Yeah.
to that that's true of also.
Okay, well, then that's,
We could certainly make an agreement subject to verification of that.
yeah, okay, that's good.
So there's no upfront costs for either system for the town.
Right.
There's no insurance costs for either system. There's no maintenance costs for either system. It's really a straight cost for electricity that you're actually contracting to buy electricity at a lower rate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's very little risk for.
So I'm just asking is
Yeah.
common citizen
Yep.
with a little bit of extra knowledge.
Bottom line is still the bottom line.
Yeah, one other, just backing up a little bit, and this is based, and I have no idea where this has gone, but based on an article I think I read in Reformer or VPIRG or something like that, regarding a lot of Vermont utilities starting to, I don't know if they were reneging on some of the solar proposals, or I don't fully understand. I didn't have a chance to really, follow up on that one, but is that something that could affect this for either company
Yeah, I would.
and for the town?
If you waited a couple of years, probably, but not in the time scope that we would.
So it's kind of grandfathered in a sense. I mean,
It's not grandfathered in. Basically, there's caps that utilities have to maintain under the law, and those utilities up there have reached their caps, and so they don't have a requirement by law to allow the continued implementation of more net metering projects. So basically, they've reached their mandated cap. So the question is, will they increase the cap? Will they not? What will they allow? What will they not? GMP is in pretty good standing at the moment.
Right.
That will change, in the next year or 2 years as these bigger projects in particular come online. For me, in our perspective, that's not a non-issue in this project and timeframe.
okay.
There is one more difference between the proposals, as I understand.
Would you speak up, please?
I'll try. There's one more difference in the proposals, and I think Mike will agree, that he's proposing to have you own or have you receive the credits from a portion of a larger system that has other people who are also sharing, which brings a level of complexity to that deal that isn't in the simple 150 kilowatt deal where you all would be the only people involved. Theoretically, one of the other owners in their project or one of the other off-takers could have a problem that would spill over into your your situation. It's not very likely, but there is some more complexity involved in having more than one entity sharing the system.
Yeah, that's why we kind of took the tact in our proposal to give you the two options. You can do the 150 on your own independently, or join in this collaborative effort with some other towns to do a larger project. There's just economies of scale, and frankly, what we're seeing in the industry is that when you move from the 150 to the 500K range, they're much more appetizing to the financing entities, and so it's a really sellable deal. You know, I'd say that for me, the biggest thing that distinguishes what you're seeing today is, at least from my understanding, is that, you know, we've got a fully capitalized finance deal that we can exercise that agreement with you, tomorrow, if you will, or we could give you those agreements, and those terms would be pretty clear in contractual terms. I mean, I could be wrong if this has changed, but right at this point, is this a hypothetical deal? Do you actually have a financing entity who's back this in writing?
We can sign it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll put it in.
And I gave you the information about our financing entity and the other projects they've done in Vermont.
And I'm not saying I disbelieve you. I guess it's the one thing is, you know, when things sound too good to be true, sometimes they are. And I guess what I'm saying, without this, I was not aware of this, you know, no contract. I mean, in fact, my hesitation with Sovereign initially was this 50-year thing, because I was, you know, that kind of scares me. Right. And now in fact, it's the exact opposite. So I kind of, you know, there's zero contract. And so I guess I feel better about, I don't know how that is approached. Like you mentioned, the finance.
I guess I would call the finance agency myself. I called Luke.
I mean, that's I guess that's the, in a sense, that's the only thing that kind of bugs me right now.
Well, do you understand the rationale? You're receiving a 12% discount on your electricity. If you choose you don't want to receive a 12% discount on your electricity, the value is still there for anybody else to take. So the financier feels, why should he scare you and make you feel that you might end up having to do something years from now for some reason that you can't imagine that's come up then?
I guess the only thing I'm thinking is that if I'm a financer, I would want to have a guarantee for a certain amount of time that I was not, and then not all of a sudden we drop off of it and they have to wait to get that payment from other people, because you're going to have to go out and look for more people. I would think they would want a guarantee for a certain length of time so that they knew at that point they needed to go out and sell it. So then they don't want to miss a month of a payment from anybody.
I haven't talked that detail out with them. If they want to say you can withdraw with 3 months notice or something like that, that might be a reasonable clause to put in there. I'm just saying that you're not locked into an obligation to do anything for 50 years by this contract.
Right.
You're free. They have the obligation to allow you to continue to purchase the credits that the system is generating.
Any other comments?
Does the town have a contract with Green Mountain Power to supply electricity to the town at this time?
Right.
In my mind, it's a very similar situation.
A utility relationship.
Choice right now, do I?
Well, as a matter of fact, we do.
We have a choice before us, but at this point right now, I don't have another choice of an electric company to buy my power from.
The point being, I don't think that contracts for power are quite, it's not the same thing with power. It's like you have a contract with your cellular company because you buy a service from them, and there's competitors. And as you're pointing out, there's only one power company, but now there are other sources of power using the same power company. So it's a new territory for a lot of people.
Yeah, and if I hear from, but I do have to say, when you were in my office the other day, one of the things I said that I liked about their proposal was that there was an out. Every year we could get out of it through this appropriations, and you said, well, ours will have that too. So I'm curious, did that change between the discussion because of the financer you went to? I'm confused about the contract term because there was discussion about a contract.
And I'm confused because you said you were glad because you could pass a non-appropriations. and you could get out. And so I'm saying you don't even have to do that to get out. I'm saying it's something better, and you're sounding like it's
No, I think I'm with
No,
him. It's more, it sounds too good to be true. It's a little bit, I'm just a little bit.
It's a complete flop from
What we
where I
were-
was first coming into this meeting.
Right,
is
that's
what I'm
all.
saying.
It's
So
not that
you've
I
got
think
me-
it's bad. I think it's just different than what was proposed to us in the proposal.
Do you know what a non-appropriations contract is?
No, I guess.
Okay, you should understand it. It would be the town of Putney voting not to appropriate money to pay its electric bill.
Right.
That's what you'd have to do to get out of that contract.
Yeah, it would have to be a whole separate article on the warning because the only other way we could vote it out is if we voted the whole budget out.
Right.
Yeah.
It's essentially voting out the budget for the town, not...
Well, I wouldn't do it that way. I would have it as a separate line item.
But then you wouldn't be able to pay your electric bill, and the electricity would get turned off in town.
No, believe me, I understand what you're saying because that was a little bit in my mind of like, well, how are we ever going to appropriate money for electricity? It's going to have to be very clear that we voted out this type of electric. I agree. I know what you're saying. I do. But I think I'm with him. It's not that I don't like what you're saying. It's that I'm just all of a sudden it's different and it's good. It's not bad. And I agree with Daniel. You're right. We don't have a contract right now, but it's different than what was proposed to us and what I've been researching. That's all. It's different than what is in your proposal because it says 50-year contract.
Right. I'm just trying to make it clear that how that contract flows.
No, I think I understand that.
Provide this to you for 50 years, or as long as the system is functioning.
Right.
That's what we meant by the length of that contract. How long you could keep on getting it if you wanted to.
Well, I just have a question, is how old do you plan to live? And for a 50-year contract, when you say a 50-year contract, or the company exists, 1, and 2, if we opt out and more solar's coming in and we were to opt out, how would you have other people buy in if Green Mountain Power said, like they did up in, I think, Washington County, or where was it, where they said, the co-op up there said, we've had it and you can't put any more, it'll be a problem for us to put more solar into the grid. So it just doesn't seem very practical unless you get a kind of a permanent agreement.
You do have, once the system has gotten the certificate of public good, then the utility is required in perpetuity to buy that power. They can't turn you off after that. Because these people never got their certificate of public good because they were over the cap, and the utility said no.
Good to know.
No, let me see. I don't know how this, this will be news to Josh also. I don't know how that's being relatively new to this. I don't know how we approach that. Is that something we need to bring back to him, or?
Well, we can choose to make a decision at the next, we can simply say that we are going to make a decision at the next meeting.
How would you guys
abide by that, period.
How would you guys feel about having a meeting sooner just for this when he gets back, so that they have an answer?
Do you have a time frame when that is? Because he did not indicate in any way, which way he was
I was assuming by this
leaning
weekend,
about this at all. So, yeah, I have no indication of what he was, how he would vote on this. So, we're really down to either or.
Yeah.
So.
He gave me an indication, but I do think that this changes it a little bit.
I think he should be clarified on it for sure. I think he would want to be.
Yeah. It's up to you guys, but I don't want to keep these guys.
No, I think we really want
That's
to
the
press
thing.
ahead
It's
for
time sensitive.
time sensitive for both, and for the construction season to proceed.
It may be more time sensitive for us because we're proposing, if we can find a site here right away, to complete that in this calendar year. And for our investment fund, there's a financial benefit in doing that.
What happens if that doesn't happen?
We'll go ahead and do it. But it would be just very helpful to get it done this year.
Well, actually, that actually brings up another question that I missed here. It says tentative sites in Putney.
Yeah.
So, say, for example, we were to say, great, let's go with Sovereign. What if a site doesn't show up?
Well, what we would immediately do is start a publicity campaign to find alternate sites to the tentative site that we have.
Right.
Speak up.
We would start a publicity campaign in the press here. The town of Putney is looking for a site to build a solar farm to benefit the town. And we would contact all the people that we know who have sites. And
Right. And if that weren't, if something couldn't be found before, I mean, you're trying to, I mean, part of this too is trying to get this in by the end of the year to
yeah,
capitalize on particular credits, right?
yeah.
So-
we're motivated.
Yeah, but I mean, what if nothing happens? Do you lose your financer then?
No, that's what I just said. We've got the finance. They've said, no, if you don't get it done this year, that's okay. We'll step in afterward.
And integrated, your site is, you are
Yeah, well, we actually have a couple.
Yeah, right, you have the Westminster.
The larger one in Westminster.
In the Westminster,
Yeah,
so-
we've begun 2 land use negotiations in Putney that we could allocate for the project. And the same thing goes, if for some reason that deal didn't happen in the 2013 calendar year, the deal points that we're presenting to you today, that doesn't go off the table. That's the deal. And we would lock that in, our investors would back that, so that some of the financing changes for those entities once you get into the next calendar year. But Green Lantern Capital isn't going to back out on that for you.
right. I guess just that would be a real clarification for me, is just how quickly does that hole close for both of you? You can take your time to respond to that, but
Well, I disagree with Michael a little bit in that the cap that we were talking about before is 4% of the total electric generation in any given utility. Green Mountain Power is at about 3.5% now, and there are a bunch of other towns that are talking about doing 500 kilowatt systems. That other 0.5% could be gobbled up really quickly. So I think it's a more real barrier. I also suspect that the legislature will take care of that in the next session and raise the cap to 6%. Most people we have a state renewable goal that can't be met if that cap stays in place, so something is likely to move. But it is a real potential barrier. But as far as we're concerned, the Cbg application process for the 150 kilowatt takes about 45 days. We have to have a site. That's if no one objects. Without objection, 45 days. But you have to have a site before you can apply for the certificate of public good because it's site specific.
Okay. Did Alice, you have a question?
Yes, you mentioned, Michael, your financial backing, and I didn't quite hear who they were.
The entity's named Green Lantern Capital out of Waterbury, and I think Cindy spoke with a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep. They have a long history, or a good history in the state of doing municipal energy projects for lots of other towns and not-for-profits. They've got a fund that's capitalized and been used by their select boards.
Any other question? I'm just wondering, should we, can we call another meeting in 3 or 4 days? Or what is the issue with Josh?
He's out of town.
He's out of town.
Yeah. I was assuming. I don't know why I assumed that he'd be back this weekend, I guess because I figure vacations go from weekend to weekend. I don't know.
right,
But
I have a potential conflict next week also, with arises my schedule. So I wasn't thinking it was a problem because we were meeting today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some family issues.
I guess it's just for me. I mean, if it were my house or whatever, I'd probably think, wow, great. It sounds like a great idea. But, I'm not speaking for my house. It's for the town, and I just kind of feel like I have to regroup and think this through a little bit more personally. And it could be relatively quick. I mean, if we can research just quickly with the financer and stuff like that, and everything's fine.
Well, I'm not sure why you have to have a formal meeting if the three of you can get together and talk?
Because they can't, well, it doesn't have to be formal, but they can't get together. And
all democracy.
it's
Right.
an open public meeting
We
law.
can't chat and email amongst ourselves.
Yeah, we can't do it unless, you just can't do that.
Democratic process.
Look where that's led to.
Yeah.
It works pretty good for the most part.
That's why it takes us so long to get stuff done.
I know.
But it's the process that we have, so it's a good process. It's a little slow, but
Yeah, you bet.
I'd like to suggest that you all sort this out and get back to these two gentlemen and know that the three of you, Josh and so on, that works out and that we move ahead. That would please me.
But I think we're all in agreement there.
Yeah, I think I'd love to work this out as quickly as possible.
That's-
And
yeah, I don't think there's a question, well, I'm speaking for you guys, but I don't think there's a question that we don't want to move forward with this. It's just this, it's just weighing the two options and which one. I guess maybe what would be helpful is, and I don't know if you want to do it right now, or maybe this is something that you guys can think about for this next maybe quick meeting that we have, try to pull it together before, is what is it about the two of them that are, what is stopping from what, you know what I mean? Are they just so similar that it's hard, or is it that one of them seems more ready, one of them the financial backers you like better? I mean, I guess that that's what I would be saying if I was you guys, is, well, what is it that's making it so difficult to make this decision?
Yeah, I mean, having seen this process through a lot of other towns, I mean, I would really encourage you to make sure that the terms are totally laid out. I mean, I frankly can't imagine there's not a contract. Maybe I'm dead wrong. I've never even heard of the financing backer that Peter's proposing, but these are substantial transactions, and so it's hard for me to not imagine that there's not terms, that there's not a clear contract involved. And I feel like we really try to make good efforts to present all the clear terms of the contract. This is what other towns have utilized and agreed to in the past. And so that would be to me what's clearly different is are the terms all right there in front of you? You have all the information.
I guess maybe that's what it is that you guys are.
I think it's prudent to,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we've got everything else here. This is just something new as of half hour ago, and so I guess it'd be good. I think
Need a third vote simply to break a tie.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality,
possible, yeah.
that's also is,
Do you think there's a tie?
I don't know. Right this moment, I would not call that.
Can you clarify, from my understanding, does the town's attorney look at this before you sign or after you sign?
The contract?
Yeah, before. And has the town attorney looked at it yet?
We don't have formal contracts in front of us yet.
Yeah, we presented terms. At least we presented the full scope of terms detailed out. And when and if the town were to select, this contract, we would provide the full service agreement, which would be vetted by the attorneys.
And then you would sign it after that?
Yes.
Yeah, but the terms that we presented are.
But the decision to award the contract, I would imagine would be made prior.
Yeah, I mean, I think the process would be
signing
you
it,
choose which one. I mean, this is a process
Right.
I guess I've been using, is choose which
proceed
one
forward,
and then be presented with a contract. Our attorney would go through it. He would tell us, and at that point, who knows? It may come in as something totally. I would hope it wouldn't be totally different than what we were presented, but I mean, I would assume at that point we would be able to say, well, wait, this isn't what we
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I think that's
But no,
pretty
as of right
standard
now, he hasn't looked at any of that.
procedure.
Might I reiterate that the two select board members meet with Josh, number 3, and that you do that at what is prudent for the situation, and then move along.
I'm okay with that.
I am,
personally.
I think that's probably the most fair thing for us to do. As I say, if we reach a decision that we're split, we're going to need that third person anyway at that point. And what day, do you have a day for Josh's term?
I don't,
Okay.
but I will make sure that I work on that tomorrow to let I mean, and I guess come to the meeting, but I guess for you guys, it's more about, if they have questions, they can call you, but I would hope at that point it's going to be.
It should be, I imagine it'd be relatively quick.
So we will meet again a week from tonight at 5:30? And
Start there.
with the sole
Let's
purpose,
start there.
Sole
Next
purpose
Thursday.
of making this decision.
Yes,
All
that
right.
would be the only thing on the agenda.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, folks.
Yep.
We will get there.
Thank you. You're working.
Oh, thank you. For doing that.
Thank you, Pip, for opening the window.
Yeah.
That's usually my first request in there. I'm a fan. All right. Moments, everybody catch their breath, and we're moving on to a municipal planning grant resolution. What is that?
We're going to let him.
Okay. A resolution. Yep.
You're familiar with the Vermont Municipal Planning Program? So money from the state generated perhaps from...
Whatever you speak up, please.
There's money from the state available for planning grants to be awarded to typically planning commissions apply for this grant money. Town of Putney Planning Commission has applied for a number of these and received them over the last 15 years. This proposal is for a grant to partner with the town of Dummerston to do a study of the Exit 4 area. And because it's in Dummerston but affects Putney, it's of interest to both towns. So I've met with Sam Farwell, the chair of the Dummerston Planning Commission. They're very interested in this, and they're proceeding on their side to have their select board approve a resolution to proceed with the application for the grant. So one of the requirements is that you approve the Planning Commission's application of a grant for $15,000 for an exit for joint study between the two towns. There are no matching funds being requested. The $15,000 is the max allowable award without any matching. So that amount is what both towns' planning commission chairs think is reasonable, and that's what I'm asking you to approve the resolution that maybe you may have copies of it in front of you.
Yeah, and then here's the.
And what do you get for that 15,000? Just
The 15,000 would then be allocated to an outside planning consultant who would work under a prescribed work plan that will be developed as part of the application. Probably do some investigation of the site, see what some of the issues are. That may be done with the help of a public meeting to generate some discussion about what the issues are. Then conversations with the two planning commissions and a process of developing a study with some recommendations. What I imagine the recommendations will have to do primarily is Dummerston's zoning regulations, but with a lot of input from Putney. So it's a unique area where the neighboring town is probably most affected by the decisions that Dummerston makes. Dummerston on the whole, it's like, it's an outlier for them. So it's an interesting planning area, one that the state has done some work on in the past. So there are people at the state interested in the planning issues associated with interstate exits. And there's an area of planning expertise, and we'll try to find someone. We'll do an RFP, we'll have $15,000 kitty, we'll get a planning consultant, and over the course of the next year, do a study with some public involvement and produce a written document at the end. And probably a public presentation.
just another general information kind of question. Sort of the geographical area that we're looking at, just so people have a sense of Is there isn't a parameter, you know, 1 mile either side of Route 5, something like that.
Maybe less than that, but also both sides of the interstate are of interest. So typically people think of the Sunoco area as the exit 4 area, but there's also the Putney inside.
Right, there's all that agricultural area.
Different issues, but so I think both sides of both exit 4, north and south, will be part of the area. I don't think the scope could be as big as a mile for an intimate look. Maybe as big as a mile for
just a sense
zoning. You know, like on a zoning scale, that might be reasonable. So
There's no association with the park and ride. I mean, this is all different from that. Okay.
Yep.
So, Bill, for the years that you've been on various committees here in town and on the planning commission, I want to thank you for your pursuit of grants.
Money.
And you've done it in so many ways, and that we've not had matching funds. So I really celebrate this. Thank you for keeping your eyes open. I hope the select board will move ahead with this.
thank you. Doesn't cost you anything.
That's right. Oh, no. Any other comments from the public or anybody? Certainly.
There's some deficit that's with the exit 4. I mean, what are they?
What are the issues around exit 4? They're only very general at this moment, but it has to do, I think, that it's the gateway to Putney, but it's affected by Dummerston zoning. And Dummerston zoning may not be consistent. It's not consistent with the density of Putney Village zoning. So you know, pass the exit and come up by the fire station, and suddenly you're in a different municipality with a very different sense of what's an appropriate level of development. And Dummerston right now, I don't know whether you're aware of it, but they're going through issues about Route 5 corridor development. And so this may provide some further information for them to try to clarify for their community what their expectations are about the Route 5 corridor.
So it's about development and increasing buildings or parking?
I think that development impact is always the prime, it's top of the list in planning concerns. So it's, it's typically the starting point. Whether it's an evaluation of the positive opportunities or the negative impact, I think it's too early to say. But it has to do with the fact that there's a real difference in the type of zoning on either side of it, and that it's a prominent entry to Putney, but not under Putney's control. And also another separate issue on the other side of the interstate, the area by the Spinnery, Graham King's Boat Shop, George Heller's office that's now farming, and the West Hill shop. Most of that's in Dummerston, and it has a very low density zoning, much less than the Putney Village. So there's some issues there that maybe we could have an opportunity to discuss Putney's goal. Most people assume that that's part of Putney.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
All right, if nothing else, motion.
So,
Make a motion.
we'll make a motion and for acceptance of the resolution for fiscal year 2014 municipal planning grant with Department of Economic Housing Community Development Committee. Is that correct?
That's good. Keep it simple. I will second that. And if there's no further discussion, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was easy.
I just not have you guys sign
Spend
this.
it well. Should be interesting.
If you can just sign away.
Sign away. What's the time?
Every year, the municipal planning grant.
What's the time frame for that grant?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know.
I'm still trying to catch up.
Yes, Scott wants to know what year.
What was your-
Again, grant. He's asking you a question.
That was,
The grant application is due September 30th, and if it's awarded, I think we know in the beginning of 2014, like in
Yeah.
February or something, so
It's, yeah,
then be work.
just a general sense of-
Spring of 2014 for a year. Typically, that's the process.
So hopefully the parking lot will be done by then, so that do I give this to you?
Oh, my goodness.
Because I would imagine that would alter, if you did the study before the parking lot was complete, then, the whole study, or a big portion of the study could be altered, you know what I mean?
Well, I think
Because it's gonna change
we're going to know a lot about the
geography.
parking ride because it's coming to a joint meeting of the DRDs of Dummerston and Putney
Oh, I see, okay.
in 2 weeks.
September.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And the proposed location, unless the site plan changes, is on paper. So, the idea is very, very, very well developed, and it will probably be a given during the course of the study. So I don't really see it affecting, its impact will be clear from the beginning of the study.
Gotcha.
Built and upgrade.
Moving right along.
Very good.
I gave up. It's next.
Great.
Yep. So the next event is the AT&T. So we're going to get a trailer-mounted wireless antenna. That's what do we have to say about that?
Well, we received the notice.
Yeah,
It's a 45-day notice and request for recommendation. So I received this on August 12th, prior to me going on vacation. So I did take a little time in the last couple days to review it and talk to the town attorney, because my first question was, what about local zoning? I wasn't sure what the process was with local zoning, because it looked to me like they were presenting me with a site plan review and they were doing all the work for us, and then we needed to, the planning commission or the select board. So when I talked to him, he said that this process does circumvent local zoning, but that we have the opportunity, and that's what this is for feedback from the select board, from the planning commission. One or both can do it, both entities can respond to this. It will go before and it's a 45-day notice of them prior to them going to the Public Service Board and putting in the certificate, applying for their certificate. So basically, I think tonight what we need to do is decide, first of all, do both entities want to work together with the public to respond to this? Does the select board want to take the lead? My suggestion would be to work together. That seems the most logical to me. But and that I did talk to a representative from AT&T today, and because in this packet it says that they're willing, they don't have to, but they're willing to come to a meeting to within the 45-day period to talk to us. And I just got an email before the meeting that said he could come to the next select board meeting. It's Mark Appleby. I don't know, some of you may have seen him around. He's been around town a lot. He has looking at locations. The way I read this is that it's a temporary cell tower, temporary. The maximum they put in here was 18 months. I don't know how good they are about their temporary.
With the caveat that I read that said it will extend until they find an alternative.
But that's what I mean. I don't know how temporary they
It's not a
actually.
definitive.
Yeah.
In other words, there's not a reapplication each 18 months to extend it.
Yeah.
It's sort of an open-ended, sit there until the trailer's rusted and fallen apart and it's still there.
Sit there until they get a permanent
Yeah.
site.
I have been told that they found a site, but I haven't been told where. Some of you have probably seen the balloon. I didn't even see any of it, but
I heard about basket wheel, that balloon up.
He told me that the results of that testing and the pictures and stuff were sent to me in the mail today, so I might have them tomorrow if anybody wants to stop in and see what but that they will have that at that next meeting. And so that's where we're at.
Did you have a chance to look at the site plan? Have you reviewed that?
No, I haven't.
The proposal is for
All this was
parking
given to me
area
yesterday.
in front of the old mill
Right,
structures
yeah.
right next to Mountain Falls. I don't know whether it's inappropriate to jump in with my opinion, but I would like to have...
Only if you're
I
wrong.
would really like to have the AT&T consultant here. I'd like to understand I've had an opportunity to read this, in the proposal, they're saying that they have site restrictions prevent them from really locating this 85-foot tower on wheels at any other portion of that site. I'd like to ask whether that really is the case, because I think it would be much less visible just a little bit deeper on that site. And if there really are no opportunities, then we could discuss it. But it's very much in conflict with the cell tower regulation that we have that's very explicit about the expectations for cell towers in the village. It runs completely counter to that, and they acknowledge that, but the public service board process is such that they have really only to invite us to comment. But at the moment, my comment is, I think it's dreadful sighting, much too visible. It's the most visible part of that site. And can't they do a little bit better on that site?
I must say I would share that concern. When I first saw this, I went down there, I was kind of looking at it, and I said, why there?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that it has to do with the whole business of line of sight and whatnot. And they've been looking for some time for a tower location here. Wasn't there and there was an extended debate about it?
That's where, yeah.
Where on Fort Hill Road, there was in there that they wanted.
Well, it was when I first got here,
this was
wasn't it?
4 or 5 years
Oh,
ago.
well, there was a recent where AT&T, wasn't it AT&T that
So it's an ongoing search.
Yeah.
But I agree. Well, there's a lot of places to tuck it there at that
I think
basketball
it's a
site.
lousy,
It must
choice
have to
of
do
site.
with, right.
And I would want to have an opportunity to understand why they chose that site, and if it really is the only site, there may be very little we can do about it.
And
I
I'm
want
leery of the
to be very
temporary
clear that
label on it.
we are being invited, our opportunity in this review process is to respond as a municipality, either select board and or planning commission, and as Cynthia said, if we do it together, I'd like it to be a very explicit statement about what I perceive as the impact of that tower in the village. And I need to understand, after the spokesperson has presented all the reasons, whether or not I feel comfortable with their reasons, or whether I just, would still want to go on record with my lack of joy about that site. It's also, underlying this for me, and it's independent issue, independent of the review, is that they lost access on somebody's tower. I don't know the details, Verizon or somebody. And it has to do with whether or not they want to pay, X number of dollars for locating it on, existing towers or whatever. And it just seems like we're now being asked to bear the brunt of the financial decisions that AT&T has made, and have an 85-foot tower at the basketball site next to Mountain Falls for a year or two while they figure it out. When there are plenty of towers
or
around
frankly,
here.
an open-ended.
So it's, I'm sympathetic for those people who have AT&T cell phones, that they have lost some of their service. I'm not sympathetic with a large corporation who thinks that the best fix for them is to put a tower in the village. So I'm not sympathetic to that.
You?
Well, a couple of things. One, I know that, I don't want to speak against property owners and so on, but I would assume that the property owner would benefit financially from having the tower there. Okay, one. So that might be something that has been sought out by the property owner. I don't know for sure, and I know a lot of solar panels have gone there, and I'm thinking that a lot of tax rate might go up for
Not if you rent out your backyard for that tower, you would?
No,
right up there on Signal Pine?
Let me continue. And I want to hold with the idea that we have ordinance, or we have planning commissions has made a statement about having cell towers in the village. And I'll tell you this, I can sit on my house and hear when they're out on the deck at the pub. So I know there'll be a hum, and because it's the way the land goes. I hear the ball field, I can hear smoke in the ball field. on a Sunday morning and play ball, because I'm like on that little knoll. So I'm telling you, I'd be just like that fella down there in Montague that cut down the damn tower for the power. I don't want to see something like that. It's going to be, it's not.
Well, we can't have
We got
it.
enough noise already. No, gentlemen and ladies, we got enough noise, or gentlemen, we got enough noise in the village, and to have something like that, move it, Pip, not from the road, move it way away from people. Because there is a hum that goes from that. And that's why it was run out of the last cell tower that went to sell, because of the hum. Yes, they do.
Make a hum.
Make it steady hum.
Does the town have the right to say no, or is this just
No.
going to be?
No, this
We can say no, it doesn't matter.
that the local zoning process was circumvented by the state in an effort to promote better cell tower coverage. And so that's a laudable goal for cell phone users. But the best that we can do is to make a strong statement about our reaction to this proposal, and then see whether it has any impact on the Public Service Board's consideration.
And there are higher points I'm going to interject.
And essentially, making them work through the process is one way of assisting that. You know, it's by making them hold a public hearing and explain the situation here and get a clear reading of the public.
I would like to just say
Yes, Becky.
the idea of a public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
it's going to be at a select board meeting. It's not a public, I mean, it's a public
Well, yes,
forum.
it's a public forum.
Yeah, but it's a little, public hearings require like notice in the newspaper and stuff. I just want to make sure that but we will publicize, yes. More than we normally do for a select board meeting.
Next select board meeting, you think he'll come?
He told me he would, yes.
Great, okay.
Right. I would simply suggest to clarify the next regularly scheduled select board meeting as opposed to the meeting we're holding next week for a special meeting to decide the...
next one's in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So we're talking about
September 11th.
Quick question for everybody. I thought I read in there that they were looking for a special consideration for zoning, that they said they knew that this didn't gel with the towns, but they're asking to consider it something else or something like that?
Yeah.
It looked like, so they needed zoning approval.
No, they're acknowledging that zoning exists, and they're doing a legal response to the fact that they're 100% not in compliance with zoning. And so it's just saying, well,
They don't
no,
need
you're not. No, they don't need that.
We're ignoring you nicely.
But they would like to go through a process of acknowledging local and regional zoning and planning. So they reference the town plan,
Right.
the zoning regulations, and the Wyndham Regional Plan, and they use that as kind of ammunition to promote their case of public service.
Okay. Becky, fire away.
So I'm in complete agreement with Pip that I think they're being snarky and trying to do it the least expensive way and the most inconvenient way to us. That being said, I don't want the town to take the concerns of the people on Putney Mountain lightly. We have very intermittent AT&T reception, very intermittent service from Fairpoint, and no internet provider. So that my husband, who is a family doctor, when he's on call, his beeper will often go off, and he has to drive down in the middle of the night to town center to make a phone call.
You don't have a landline phone?
It goes out of that.
Well, your place is higher than down here in the village. Maybe we could put it there.
I'm just saying, let's not take it.
Oh, no. And it's, these communications are essential. They're an essential part of our lives and our businesses and our communities, and we've got to find a way to work around this stuff.
Give us service back, but the service we got back was much worse.
Let's take
Time
it
and
ourselves.
again, people trying to reach me get the message that an international line is not available.
Yep.
How many towers do we have now within 50-mile radius?
50 miles. Yikes. Right.
There's one tower in Putney.
Okay.
It's up on Holland Hill Road, actually just above the new, the area
Okay,
that's
so we
being,
have all these
the wildlife
towers,
area.
like you said, that are around us. And we have one here in Putney, but we have, okay, we got maybe 20 within the 20-mile radius.
that are in.
Why can't
within a 50
this
mile.
company
50
just,
miles, okay.
This is the one they can't.
That'll be a question you need to ask, but then,
Okay, but they decided not to because they don't get, the money is not good for them.
yes.
Why should we suffer because they are not?
No, I don't mean to be facetious, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's, yes. Yeah, I mean, so, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
It's like a 1 acre lot.
So 2 weeks.
Yes.
September 9th.
I will make
Thank
sure
you,
that everybody knows when
Yeah,
this
so
next
in 2
meeting.
weeks, we're gonna have a meeting, and we can continue the conversation.
Thanks for stirring this up.
He's got another call.
Yeah, exactly.
Like another select board meeting to while it up.
He's calling the paper. All right.
Can I also clarify, were they asking you in this 45-day to not seek input? Because I had this same experience in Brattleboro. I think part of this, they weren't asking that.
Oh.
Like if the town says we're cool with this, they don't have to wait the 45 days.
Well, yeah, you did read something to that effect. It wasn't that they weren't seeking input, it was that the minute you do, then that 45.
Right.
So, but we have till September 25th to respond to this.
Right, so you're not voting to forego the 45 days?
No.
Right.
I'm not, well, I don't vote. I'm assuming not, since we need this next meeting and then, yeah.
So 5:30
So
in 2 weeks.
has the process changed for getting a certificate of public good in relation to mobile cellular towers? Because it's my understanding that in order to get a certificate of public good, approval needs to happen, or at least no disapproval needs to happen from all the abutters of this particular property. So is this a different process now that we've been preempted by new regulations?
Well,
I know
all
the
the
abutters
abutters
were
were
just
notified.
notified, literally.
Did you not get one?
The Wilson wetland is.
Was the town notified us in about?
Yeah, I think so. Let me look.
I didn't get any.
Hold on, let me look at the abutters.
I don't think they've applied yet. I think once they apply.
Yeah, but I thought in here it showed a
Yeah, it
list
did
of
have a
who they
list.
Okay, there is a
sent
list
this to.
of abutters
It's on the.
Yeah, I don't think that they do it at this point, but
Adjoining property owners.
the part of a really significant element of the certificate of public good is that the town wants it here and supports it. That the Public Service Board considers that in the process. And so this is kind of their first step, I think,
Yeah.
is to come to the town and say, you know,
well, it sounds to me like they're coming to us saying, look, we have a number of customers who are dissatisfied with their service, and we're doing our best to move forward with this. I'm sure is going to be their
But their
part of their argument. Yes, I
until they
understand.
withdrew it from one of the towers.
Just channeling them.
And at that point, their service went down, so they chose to withdraw their service.
well,
Yes.
we don't actually know that,
That's-
Chip, and they may not have, Verizon, who owns the tower, may not have renewed their contract. They may not have an option to co-locate on somebody else's tower.
We don't know that, though.
We don't
That's-
know, yeah, we need
that
to
would
get
be-
that information from them when they show up.
So in fact, if they did withdraw their contract because they want to go out and have their own towers so that they can rent
Sure, and I think
their
the
own
public
tower,
can
then-
ask
then
for.
Why should we have to?
Frankly, show us the proof that this does in fact, work. Does it
And they can't.
does it work? So
It's got to work for Becky.
it will. I don't know enough about exactly how.
And actually, yeah, 2G.
Excuse me, I'd like you all to hear this,
Off in the corner.
that before AT&T moved a tower in somewhere, they were getting fairly good reception on
Yes, we were getting good phone reception. We were not getting 4G, and I don't think we even had 3G. We were getting probably 2G, but it worked. We could make a phone call.
Very good.
And people could call us, right, which is
Right,
what you need.
So they took that service
They
away.
took that service away, and after Howard wrote an article, Sean made a phone call, and it appeared right away. It was not as though they had
Yeah,
constructed.
turn equipment back on.
Right, but it wasn't as good and it wasn't as reliable, and phone calls can't get through to me. People call me, I'm told that I'm overseas, and
So they have presented a problem that they caused, and they've got a solution that benefits
Right, that's
them.
what's happening,
And
that's what
does not benefit anybody.
No, they didn't cause it. What it was is when,
But when they withdrew,
no, they didn't withdraw it. When AT&T purchased, what was the older company?
Unicell.
Unicell. When AT&T purchased Unicell, they kind of got a package deal, and like they were allowed to use some Verizon tower maybe for a year or 2 years, and that expired.
Okay.
And so I think the two companies, I think they could pay AT&T a lot more now, but I don't think they want to.
They can pay Verizon.
Right.
So this is a less expensive, we assume this is a less expensive option.
No one's been able to tell me that.
Yeah.
There are also third-party tower companies in the area that are not owned by Verizon or AT&T. And when you press them and when you look on the tower maps, because these are online, you can find owners of the various towers. So there are lease agreements. There may be politics involved. There may be this, kind of minutia and maneuvering to get more towers locally. But there are also technologies that don't require towers per se to get better coverage in urban areas. So that's something that we might want to consider, because if you do need cell coverage and you need cell coverage, maybe the tower is really the appropriate way to go.
So,
And I'm not sure this tower will go up to Putney Mountain.
no, I'm not sure either. But
They've always said this is for the village.
I'm not sure that it would solve the Putney Mountain problem at all. But I do think that we need to keep an open eye to allowing communications in and allowing alternative energy sources in, and that we can't be all that. I mean, this does sound screwy and awful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but we do have to keep an open mind into making Vermont more accessible to new ventures.
That's our job, looking for that happy balance. Alice.
Point of information. I think all of us want to be able to eat food, and I think most of us know that our food is dependent upon being pollinated by bees. And some of us have heard about colony collapse disorder. And there have been studies in India in particular, and Germany and Switzerland that document that bees around cell towers lose their way and can't get back to their hive. So this is another piece of information that I think should be added into this pot.
Right, but that's a piece of information that suggests that town centers are the place for a cell phone as opposed to orchards.
That could be, yeah.
Well, the trouble is we don't have any local regulatory input on that, Alice, unfortunately. It's just like with Yankee. You're not allowed to talk about safety. You're not allowed to talk about issues related to the danger of the radiation, because the state has that covered. So it won't serve us to even bring it up, because it's not within the jurisdiction of any municipal body here.
But I think it's important that we happen to know about it.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, this should be brought up because for all we know, these are the only people opposed, or a small percentage of people are opposed to it, and the majority of the town's
45 days.
in favor of it. That's what I'm saying. Is that that's why a public, more of a public forum with more people invited makes the most sense at this point.
There's a questionnaire in here based on.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in fact, I know the library, they got wind of this and they'd like something, I don't know what can be posted, but they'd like this posted so that it's available for everyone to look through it and see.
It's a very significant thing.
But I mean, we need to get the information out for people to make an informed decision.
I think there's an important economic consideration against a tower right in the center of town that, it's not overly attractive, and if people have the stigma of it being unhealthy or radiologically unsafe, then it's going to drive people away from living in the center of town.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that.
I guess one thing for me, the biggest question mark I have with them is when you say temporary, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What has it meant in other towns? Because I got all sorts of pictures of where they put temporary stuff in other towns. How long did that stay? And did you stick with what you said you were going to do for that? And who monitored that? Once it's here, and they say I don't know if the Public Service Board gives information to say that it will be out by such and such a date, or your certificate is no good anymore, or whatever. Then who monitors that? Is it us? Do they check? I don't know. That's the unknown for me. And if they say, you know, we said 18 months, but we know it's 6 months, and if the Public Service Board can put a date on that for me, that would make me feel better. Because then if it's still sitting there, we know we're all going to call, whether we're supposed to monitor or not. But I just, that's the biggest question mark for me, is this open-ended temporary discussion, because they have said they found another location in town, that they're working on that location, so we're gonna have to go through this all over again when it's a permanent one, and where that is. But this whole word temporary, I don't know. Our temporary is a little different probably than what they're thinking is temporary.
Well, that sort of leads into my sort of final point with whatever the select board, after the public, quote-unquote, hearing happens, whatever they decide, I think the town should have a physical presence at the public service board hearing as a town.
That's good. For travel.
Oh, God. We'll pollute things.
Just so everybody here knows, I do have a copy of this in my office. Like I said, if anybody wants to come look through it, I'm not going to make copies because it's 35 pages long. If somebody wants to come and get a copy, they're welcome to, but I'm not going to make copies like to distribute.
Could you give it to somebody to put it on the website?
Yeah, we can put it there. And then there is a list of adjoining property owners that were copied this via mail. So if you feel like you're a adjoining property owner that was not notified, I can give you the number to the person that did the research on the abutters.
Is the town listed as an abutter? Good.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if any of those people are here tonight. I don't see anybody that's on this list here tonight other than the wetlands. But they weren't. I mean, it says Town of Putney. I'm assuming it was. I didn't assume it was Wilson Wetlands. I assumed it was Planning Commission and Select Board and.
I think they have status in 2 categories.
Yeah.
Am I on one?
You are not.
No.
I do not see you.
Do you have abutting properties?
I would think so. I'd be surprised if I don't.
Do you?
To the Baskerville lot?
Because it's. Do you
And you have property on the
Because
north side of Route 5?
Yeah.
But it's over past the
cemetery.
Right.
No, it's adjacent to the cemetery.
Yes, but it's on the
Cemetery
adjacent side.
is-
Cemetery is in butter,
What about the
right?
cemetery?
But anybody's welcome to look at this. And then, like I said, tomorrow I should get an email with pictures that came from that test. So if anybody's interested, those will be at that meeting, but that next meeting.
Well, thank you. I'm taking these very well.
We're trying.
I'll get a
Right.
copy of this. This is Steve.
Yeah, I
Library,
think
that's
this
okay.
might be, I might have an extra, I need one extra.
Or
We have it as PDF.
yeah, that's, and he can print it out.
Yeah, we can email it PDF.
I'd like to see a copy of that if I can.
I gave you one.
Oh, you did? Sorry. This, we jumped right into this. I'd never got a chance to look through the pile there. And this is coming new to me. I heard about all of this yesterday.
Oh, really?
Right, from an abutter, and I went, hello?
I've got HNC and I have 5.
All right. Don't make me bang the gavel. Sit down or move on. Number.
Now the gavel?
I've got my voice.
Actually, Anita has one.
Yes, that's right. Brought my voice tonight. In or out. Business continues.
Hi, Mark.
Land development. Class 4 highway. Kenzie Banning Road. What's happening up there?
Okay. You want to say
Looks
something?
like you're
or want me to
addressing
go for
this.
it?
Yeah, so I'm Mark Owen. I'm here on behalf of Mike McKenzie. And we are requesting permission to put in a new driveway on Banning Road where it's technically an unmaintained town road.
Right.
The town still plows it in that section,
Right.
but they don't maintain it, so we need permission from the select board to do that. And I met there with Ryan Harlow, and we looked at the site, and he signed the form giving his okay. In fact, we're going to make the turnaround better
Right.
for the town. So
Are you bringing the road up to class 3 and then, or are you
we're not
going to keep it in
We're
the
only,
undeveloped
We're going to
zone?
improve the section from the current turnaround to where the driveway will be, which is about 30 feet or so.
Okay, so you're not requesting we take up a chunk of the road to a class
Can I-
3 road right now?
I
Yep,
just
go
want
ahead,
to,
Barbara.
I just want to say my spiel.
I was just looking
A zoning
clarity.
application was presented to me to build a house, single-family dwelling on the property. That I put a copy of the map in there, and there was discussion about where the access to the property would be, and it was decided that it would access Banning Road directly from the property, which is this lot 2, right? This one right
Yes.
here.
And you can see we actually already have put the driveway
Yeah.
in to there, and we stopped short that stone wall because we didn't want four-wheelers and mountain bikers and whatnot to come up there.
That section of Banning Road is
So
class 4.
we want to complete this section right here.
Right.
This is right now the turnaround is about where that pin is.
Yep.
So is this where the Mackenzie driveway
That's
is?
right. Right now
Okay.
it's accessed up this driveway.
Right.
And we have researched that, and it is a deeded right away. But we want, so this is the property here where his house is now.
Yeah.
And this is where we're building a new house. And so we want the two properties completely separate so that there's not a right of way.
Okay.
You know, so that the driveway to the new house doesn't drive by the old house.
And just, I mean, biking or skiing or whatever, isn't there, at the end of this, isn't there, let's say, town highway turnaround, like a big sign or something, all the way?
At the end of Banning Road.
If you go all the way to the end where...
Yeah, there's a sign on the tree that says...
So is that the turnaround? Is that the actual turnaround there? Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
So in order for me to approve a zoning permit, part of our bylaws say that anytime there is a request to build a single-family dwelling with road frontage that enters a class 4 road, then the select board has to approve it, has to approve that. And I just want to make sure that we're clear. One of the things I put in there is just potential conditions that you want to put on. They've said they're going to improve. Brian didn't say they needed to improve it to a class 3. Like he said, it's going to improve their turnaround. It's actually going to be helpful for them. He approved the highway access permit. But that just for future reference, that if something happens up there, owners change, that there's the trail of whose responsibility it is to maintain that.
Right.
We all know that needs to be...
The clear
yeah.
that's made at the beginning.
Yeah.
And in perpetuity, that or subject to change
Yeah.
by...
So there is a page up here that just talks about this. I took from one that we, Meeting House Lane, that whole, when that development was done, there was clear direction with the zoning permit. There's nothing else on the zoning permit that I have an issue with in approving it. But just sending with this with the condition of on a class 4 highway, this is what we expect and this is what they agree to, and so that there's no question in the future. So you can use these, you can cross them off, you can...
Select board's decision is matter should be recorded at the owner at the record's expense in the Putney land records. Therefore, it becomes part of any deed research or anything that goes on in the future, and that information then passes on from owner to owner, considering that so that it's clearly delineated the responsibilities, which is just that eliminates some of those issues that we've had raised
in the future.
in some other locations as time has gone by. So as long as that's clear,
I mean, that first one I put on there was talking about the class 3. You have the right to tell them to approve it to a class 3, but like I said, Brian went out there, he looked at it. It's not, they've been maintaining it, they've been doing the work, they meaning Mackenzie, and so he didn't have a problem with that. It was more about just future.
And I can see, because it's pretty flat right there anyway.
It is.
You know, so we don't have issues of roads washing out and things like that.
Why not?
And not even from the driveway necessarily? I
No,
mean, there's no...
So where the turnaround is now, it's slightly pointed uphill.
Yeah.
And where the driveway will go off it is at the crest of that hill.
Okay.
And so there's nothing going on where it starts to slope back down.
Yeah, and Brian put on the conditions, he didn't put any conditions to the driveway, he said a culvert isn't even required, so.
Yeah, okay.
We're sort of at the summit of that little crest there, so water on either side of the driveway is going to flow off. There's already a trail there now where we're going to put the driveway, which is basically just going to improve it to be a permanent driveway, not a Jeep trail.
So this one, Brian's okay with this.
And actually, when Brian came up, the June Derry, who was the excavator who actually do it, he was there anyway, doing some work for me, so he met. So the three of us met there and looked it all over and make sure everybody's talking about the same thing.
Right.
Do you see anything on there that makes you go,
Just the first one. I mean, we don't want to upgrade the road.
Right.
It's already perfectly passable.
Right.
Serviceable. And frankly, as good a condition as the rest of Main Road, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would is probably a little narrower, but I'm not saying that's an issue. And that's why I said there's really no grade on it, so I don't see there being any issues compared to other roads.
No, Brian actually was thinking it was going to be better for them, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and ultimately, I want to say that the way he sees it is the most practical way of looking at it, because he might be the one having to prepare something
Right.
otherwise, you know, and he doesn't want to have to do that, so he wouldn't have given you the okay if he wasn't, in agreement, in full agreement.
Yeah.
So I can fine with that.
We need a
Yeah, you need a motion, and then I guess to approve it with the following conditions, and we can take that number 1 off of there. That's about the class 3 section. But I don't, is there anything else on there that you think
No, everything else seems
was pretty
perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, we can call them and have to come up
So
with
the
we're actually
condition,
doing
did
it.
you see the conditions?
Yep.
So everything but, approve it with the following conditions, and then when I approve the permit and we send it out, I'll write a letter with all of that in it, and you just double check to make sure it was what we talked about, and then we can finally sign this one.
So
let's see how we verbiage this whole.
Yeah.
How about if I make a motion that we approve the land development approval
Land development, Banning Road.
approval access off of Mackenzie Banning Road, or
No, Mackenzie's the
Banning-
applicant. It's
the applicant. Okay, but it's not called Mackenzie Banning Road there. It's called Banning Road. In meeting conditions 2 through 7, and perhaps list of these conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. How's that sound? I'm not going to read them all.
I'll give it
Boilerplate
a
here.
And we'll put it in a letter with the
Right.
the zoning application.
How's that sound? You got them
Yeah.
in a readable form?
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That was
Good?
easy.
All right, so we'll put that out in there.
Will there be anything I need to be signed by him? This is it.
No, that's it, because
You didn't have to, like, sign
no, it's going to be
something.
part of the conditions of the zoning application. I mean, the zoning permit, when I give it to you. Yep. You want to keep that? Keep this one, you can. Sure. I'll give it out tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All those places were inhabited once upon a time. It's all cellar holes and roads all throughout there. Health insurance. Geez, just one more
I'm not,
thing.
this is not gonna be long. This is just gonna be, I put in
You're going to explain all of this
Nope.
to me, aren't you?
I'm going to tell you about a meeting I'm having that you're welcome to come to, which would be good if somebody could from the board come to, which is on September 19th. It's with a representative from Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. She's going to go over, I did put a rate sheet in there of the new options.
Are we
It's that awful thing.
getting something from both insurance companies?
No, it's not. It doesn't come from the insurance companies. It comes from the Vermont Health Exchange.
Yes, but they are in
But both
effect. Right.
insurance companies are on this rate sheet
Right,
right there.
that's what I mean by that,
Yeah.
I suppose.
So this is different than the meeting that's going to happen at the firehouse, right?
That's
The one that already happened? at the
the
firehouse?
one that happened. Yes,
Was that
the
one
one
that was gone?
that was for the health insurance questions for the public.
Yes.
Okay, so
But
this-
it's the
Because
same,
because
it's the
we're all
same.
Gotcha.
we're all moving into the same boat, right?
So this is for town employees?
This is
that
for
correct?
town employees.
This is the rate sheets for the Vermont Health Connect, which is the new exchange where everybody's going to have to purchase their health
Gotcha.
insurance.
Okay.
So yes, the meeting down there is the same thing as this, but this is a decision we need to make for our own employees for the town of Putney. Does that make sense?
Yep, yep.
Are we going to recommend something to them and basically say, here's choices 1, 2, 3, or are we going to
Well,
just
I
simply
guess
study it
that's
and
the
here are choices?
million-dollar
Well,
question.
right. Here are choices 1 through 10. Are we picking like 1 out of 3, or are we gonna just let everybody?
We have to pick one
Go through it.
plan as a group-sponsored, employer-sponsored group plan.
Yeah.
We have to pick one of these plans that says this is what we will contribute towards this plan. Now, if one of our employees goes out on the exchange and they want to purchase a different insurance, they can, but we are only going to contribute X amount of dollars to it. So, the rates that I'm looking at are under the standard plans, which is over on the left-hand side, which is the column that says gold and then the column that says silver. Silver is I'm being told, is most related to what we currently have now, but the out-of-pocket expenses are a lot more than what people are used to. So I'm not going to go into detail
Sure.
about each one of these things tonight, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
just a
this is-
start. We're going to have this discussion of, I'm trying my best to make it be comparable to what we offer them now while keeping it within the budget that we have for this year. It's not going to be easy because of those out-of-pocket. Our deductibles have been different before, and we've always paid for a portion of the deductible. So the more I got into it in the last few days, the more I realized I needed to ask more questions. So that's why I asked Tanya to come down, and she's just going to sit with me, and well, I'm going to have Laura come too, because poor Laura's listened to me for 2 days. Say, what does this mean? So she's so it would be good maybe for...
Yep, that's gonna
The other thing is that I did talk to Pat, is it Field at Putney Family? I always get Pat Shields and Pat Fields.
Pat Fields, singular.
Yeah.
Pat Shields.
She has been training to be a navigator for the exchange, and they are having a meeting on September 17th, she told me, another public meeting. I can't remember where she told me it was, but she's going to have it publicized. I just wanted to put that out there for really the general public.
It's in Dummerston. I just put a photo.
Yes, at the Learning Collaborative?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where it was. And that's from 6:30 to 8 on the 17th. I have a concern not only as an employer that has to make this decision, but as just a municipal official, and knowing there are a lot of people that have no idea that this is even going on, or they're going to have to. I've talked to several people in the last week that are like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm trying to get as educated as I can. Pat is a resource that I would hate to inundate her with everybody, but I would like to be able to help her if I can. can.
There's really good information online
Yeah.
from Vermont Health Plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the people that I've
think-
been talking to are.
I mean, unfortunately, the best way it works out is just if the more you can access the multiplicities of scenarios, just because everyone's situation is slightly different, that if you could actually just simply plug in and say, here is my situation. And,
Yeah.
here's what I perceive,
Their
maybe the
website
changes are in a
is
5-year period. And
pretty user friendly.
Yeah,
I think it's good, but it's it's the start of the discussion.
Yep.
They don't have the final information up until October 1st anyway. It's not, it's sort of a little speculative right now. And then there's a few months to work it out. So.
There is another thing that Tanya threw at me today was the possibility of keeping what we currently have and buying us a year. That's the first I've heard that.
I'm sorry, keep
buying,
it and buying.
buying us a year to figure it all out.
That there would be.
So I don't know where that came from. I hadn't heard that before, but that is another thing she'll talk to us about on that at that meeting.
And that's on the 19th.
Yeah, and that was at 12:30.
So 11 plus 7, so that's a Thursday or something like that?
What day was the 17th?
Thursday, 19th.
19th.
Okay.
The other public one was the 17th.
Where is that meeting?
The one with Tanya?
The one on the 19th, yeah.
That's here.
Here. Oh, okay. Oh. Makes it even easier.
Yeah, she's a representative from all these cities and towns that we've worked with for years for our health insurance.
Well, looking at all this health stuff is like looking at Greek. Anyway, so I'd like to know more about it myself.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sort of startled. It's almost exactly what we have been paying for.
Actually, the rates on the silver plan, the rates on the silver plan are less than what we're paying right now.
Right.
But it's the other portion, the out-of-pocket stuff, that potentially could be an issue for our employees if they have a really bad year.
Yep. Sure. Exactly.
So I'll try to have it a little bit, I'll try to send you guys some information on where we're at now and do a comparison so that you can understand where we're at now and what we're looking at, but hopefully it'll just be a recommendation. I think this is what we can do and stay within budget.
Okay.
And then everybody else can help me try to explain it to everybody.
Would you guys be willing to interject a 2-minute thing into your agenda?
I'm done.
Sure. A 2-minute thing, yes.
Is the select board aware that the beavers have moved back in on Sandhill Road?
I have not told them, so they are.
The beavers have moved back in on Sandhill Road.
On the north side of the road.
No, on the south side of the road. Approximately where the beaver dam that was removed before or right around Irene, maybe slightly after Irene, and they're extremely active. I'm hoping we're going to get a beaver biologist to come down here. There's some, I know that one of the Wilson Wetland Committee members, Mary Quinn, had an impromptu informal meeting with Brian Harlow on the road a few days ago, just because I happened to be there at the same time. There's some concern about the road because the beavers are really active. They've built a number of dams, I think at least 5. They're really working it, and if you just walk down there, you'll see it's really different. It's back to how it used to be. And for a while, the water was the new perched culverts on the west side of the brook were working really well, and the water, they built up the water, and then it was building up enough on the north side that it was flowing through the 2 easternmost culverts on the west side of the brook, so closer to Westminster West Road. But they're starting to plug up the culverts with sticks pretty drastically. And one of the reasons I'm hoping that beaver biologists can come down and meet with a group of us, including people from the road crew and hopefully Cynthia and some members of the Conservation Commission or Wetland Stewardship Committee, is to try to discuss strategies for minimizing the road crew's need to have to go pull sticks out daily, and figure out what we can do there, and kind of assuage the concerns that the road's in danger. So the wetland's really wet again, which is great. But I just want you guys to be on the page, and we are directed by the state not to mess with any of those dams, not to remove any of those dams very directly from our meetings a year ago. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the culvert stuff, is that not supposed to be disturbed either? Because I mean, I've been super clear with the road crew that do not touch any beaver dams or beavers up there until you talk to me and we talk to the people on the Conservation Commission, Wilson Wetlands, and we call the state.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that to them about the culverts.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think I think maybe it would be worthwhile for you to put some calls into maybe Todd Manise, maybe the beaver biologist.
Yeah, I know that Corey was.
Yeah, Corey is the beaver biologist. Yeah, so I'm hoping that his agenda isn't really crowded and that he can come down soon. Because I suspect that there's something we can do to like screen the culverts.
There are a host of odd inventions of beaver deceivers of various brands and processes. I mean, I observed that process for the last 25 years on Holland Hill Road. That, you know, the beavers have come and gone. Currently they're gone, but I'm sure they will return because it's just it's too choice a spot for them. They're already working their way up, off the hill down towards that stream again. But and that was a fairly elaborate work of gates and whatnot, trying to keep them back from it. There's the beavers are damn persistent.
They really are. They're very
and they're really quite clever, and
they work hard.
They
fast.
The road crews really haven't come up with much of a strategy for dealing with it yet. So I'll be curious to see what they've come up with. What the next round.
Well, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
a lot of patience already.
Right.
So I'm trying to work
great,
that. So I'll call Corey in the morning.
Yeah.
I was hoping he was going to respond. I emailed today.
I appreciate your work on it. Just one more piece, and that is that part of the reason that we're instructed not to mess with these beavers is that the ANR has, Agency of Natural Resources, has some really strong concerns that the beaver populations were strongly damaged by Irene. A lot of beavers drowned in their lodges because when the water gets high, beavers go back to the lodge, and they're really concerned about the beaver population. So I think I think this is all going to work out, but it's probably good that everybody knows what's going on and that we try to take some action soon. I'm a little worried that the road crew will get nervous if we don't get something.
Well, they are, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't really nervous about the beaver dams. I didn't get that sense. It was more the culverts.
Yeah.
And there was a discussion that they would continue to do that. And I think the discussion between to remove, that's why I asked that question, is that I didn't, that.
I think that's okay, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
So we should really.
There wasn't like an itch to like get rid of the beaver dams right now.
Yeah.
There was nothing, he didn't feel like it was, that was an issue right now.
Yeah.
So I'll call Corey in the morning and see if we can.
Winter is coming, and it's going to be. There's a lot to be done. Their work starts backing up. And,
yeah,
I know.
And it's
I think that's what makes
worrying about something that they say, well, we got all this other stuff to do.
Yeah.
Don't need to be out there digging up these culverts in November or something.
Right.
Out of curiosity, is Sand Hill Road needed that much?
Well, that's another ongoing.
Oh, is that okay?
There are those that would argue.
It's used by people who, who take that route of going.
To cut the road,
north on the Westminster West Road and then heading over to Route 5. But the biggest thing, I think the biggest concern, because there was some discussion when it got really wiped out by Irene of like, let's just leave it out. Like, let's just let the wetland be a wetland and get rid of this road that is a pain in the butt and takes a lot of maintenance. And the emergency first responders are like, absolutely not. We need that access to, it's a second route to town.
And I would argue also, just historic use. That it has been a wetland in the past. It has been fields and productive, land in the past.
Yeah.
It's been partly an industrial wasteland in the past. I mean, it's had a multiplicity of uses, and if you start limiting uses, well, then you take it out of human use.
I think the will of the
in
town
perpetuity.
is strongly to keep it as a road.
Given that,
Really
right,
clear.
and I think we try to strike a balance where I think we've made some really important strides, particularly in that area, in that wetland area, preserving some big chunks, and between the school forest and the Wilson wetland and the other properties being preserved. That we're making a fairly effective effort, but it's a balance. It's always going to be.
Yeah.
Thank you for this 10 minutes.
That's right. You owe me 8 minutes.
She took it out of your time.
Oh no, that doesn't mean you get another 2 minutes.
Just really quickly, I'd like to just reiterate my push for getting a streetlight policy approved by the board. I would like to hear that there's a timetable for this at this point, because it's been on old business for a while, and the streetlight policy has nothing to do with how much Green Mountain Power is charging the town for electricity, or how much if Green Mountain Power makes mistakes on your electric bill. It is purely a policy that interacts with townspeople on the location of streetlights in questionable areas where streetlights might be illuminating someone's property rather than an intersection or where people are walking. It's a very straightforward document that I submitted sometime in the fall. I don't remember exactly when. I would really love to see it approved
And you
or
submitted
modified.
it when Chris was here.
Yeah. So if it needs revision, great. Let's just move on it so I don't have to keep nagging you guys about it. Thank you so much.
Duly noted.
People nag me all the time.
Duly noted.
I'd rather not. I think there's a good reason to have it, and it's not a complex document. It's good for towns to have streetlight policy. So thank you.
All right.
Town manager report. Oh boy.
I just wanted to let you know that we did not have any tax sales.
We
They
did
all
not.
ended up paying.
Excellent.
And that the delinquent taxes at this point, this time last year were $117,000.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to 65.
Half, almost, yeah.
So that made me feel good when I printed that report tonight. So we're really, I don't know, something's working.
Well,
So that was the
that's
only-
good. Check that off in the positive
Yeah.
column.
That off, huh? Of course, then, what goes through my mind is, we gotta start thinking about maybe redoing the budget for penalties, the amount of penalty that we think we're gonna get for revenue every year, because if we get this list down, that reduces our penalty revenue, which is a good thing for the people of the town of Putney.
Right. I don't think we were looking at it as, a steady revenue
I hope
stream
not, yeah.
that you really hope that that's not a growing,
No, I don't want it
a
to
growth
be.
area, that's like parking fines, or
It
something.
is a
right,
consideration.
yeah.
I mean, not that I would consider not trying to help people pay
Right.
that down, but
If we need more money, we can just simply raise taxes. As the camera explodes. No, but I mean, I don't think it was ever, it was never make it or break it kind of money, one way or the other. So.
no, so that's good. And people have really been, I think people are feeling positive.
And it may
about
just be
coming
an
in and
anomaly
talking
this year
to
too.
me.
We just,
Yeah. I think the pink notices have helped a little. People pay attention to them.
if that's as simple as that people respond, and
I don't have the warrants. Would you mind getting those?
that's good.
The only other thing I wanted to tell you about under my report is that the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development, that whole group that's doing the, I was asked a few weeks ago if I would be, there was an opening on the board because Barbara down at the town manager of Brattleboro has left.
Oh, right, that's right.
Oh, okay.
And I told him that I was interested, it was something that I was interested in, and I got a call yesterday. She called me to let me know they had appointed me to that board. So,
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was feeling good about it. Seems like it's something that could help this region and hopefully help Putney, you know, be a part of that mix. So.
Right. This isn't the one that
Yep.
Pip was just, yeah, it is.
Oh, no,
but someone else was here a month ago.
They were the ones that asked for some money appropriation last year. Yeah. But so that was good. I was excited about that. It's a good group of people. Would you guys like to set a time frame for the streetlight policy for me?
About the next regular meeting, which is 2 weeks from now, not that our special meeting to decide the.
So you want the streetlight policy here at that next meeting?
Why not? I'm getting tired of listening about it. I mean, what is holding us up?
What's holding me up personally is that I have been waiting.
I mean, ultimately, if you need more time to do it.
Well, I want to explain it because it keeps coming up. We took down some lights recently without a streetlight policy. I got some flack from some people in town saying, we never said we wanted that light taken out. Okay? We never noticed people properly. There was discussion.
Right. So we acted sort of.
So the streetlight policy that's before me, I have not had time to really absorb what it means for the streetlights that we have. First of all, I don't know if the streetlights that we have, or when I look at the streetlights when I go down the road, if they're ours or if they're someone else's. Right. So I'm trying to verify that first, so when I read the policy, I will know which ones we think we're targeting to take down. Right. So, although it keeps being said that they don't go hand in hand, I feel like I need to verify the ones we're being billed for, find their locations, make sure on the map I understand where they are, and mark on them, this might be a driveway one. This might be, and if that's the case, that this policy kind of says there are some that we can remove because they're not being used for public, they're being used for a personal. I don't know that because I haven't physically looked at that.
Well, you know, I mean, that sounds perfectly logical to me.
And I understand the frustration on this part.
Right.
Chris, this was presented to Chris before he left. It didn't get done.
Because it's not quite as simple as it appears.
It is not. In my mind, it's not, because I don't know when I bring that policy to you if I feel it's in the best interest of the people that it's going to affect. And I want them to be here to be able to voice their concern if they have a concern about a streetlight being removed.
Then, in which case, I'll withdraw that date. I
would like to get it done as soon as possible too.
But I also understand. We've got some other rather pressing, issues here.
And I haven't heard anybody, as the general public, coming to me saying that I think we have too many streetlights.
Right. That we have to have. That this is not a burning demand. Right.
So it's been put.
Nobody's yelling in the streets for a streetlight policy yet.
Yes.
Right.
I get.
Whereas some of these other issues are a little more, are going to be attracting. This cell tower is obviously going to attract considerable attention and whatnot, as and then we also have some rather mundane but rather important decisions and processes to go through,
and
like this
it really has
insurance.
Not been about stonewalling this policy.
No, I don't.
It's really been about the fact that I've had deadlines on more pressing issues than if there was a problem with streetlights all over town that were just blaring and people were complaining, or then it would be more pressing for me. It just hasn't been.
Just wait till that parking lot's done.
Yeah.
Right. Or casino gambling comes to
Dummerston. A more pressing issue for me was we should have had lights at the pool all summer.
Right.
It was a dangerous situation up there.
Right.
So.
Right, but we can't get moving there.
Yeah. So I just want my side of the story. I've said it. I will do my best to put it on my list of things to do. And I understand.
The select board is assured of your continued interest and working through this process. And
I mean, the town hall fire escape, that needs to be
we'll act
done.
when presented the information.
That's right.
I'm not
So-
purposely stonewalling
I'm
anything.
not trying to press on it at all either. I'm just,
My hope is to take a walk around town Friday. It really is.
Yeah.
But, yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
all right. That's the sole one in there. And do we have anything else? Next. Finance, you know, none of that's done there, right? We're not broke yet, right?
No.
That's
We haven't had to borrow any money.
That's a sufficient financial report, right? Right. We're in the
I
money.
gave you
We're still in the money.
updated budget
No, but
report.
that's
We did not have to borrow money this year, which is good.
excellent.
Really good.
And that's great. People are paying their taxes on time and keeping that flow going, which must make Anita happy.
As much as I hate to meet
This
people
yours?
I think those
in
are.
a,
This was, okay.
as much as I hate to meet people in a delinquent tax situation,
Yep, this
I've
was
met
the
some
various
really cool
towers.
people. In that, yeah,
That was the
gotten to
financial
talk to
report,
people
right.
about what's going on in their lives and why they're, it's,
Yep.
it's been good.
I mean, with these
People have
last 3 people, you mean?
been- The ones with the tax
Tax
sale,
sale,
I love talking to people, but under those circumstances, it's not my favorite thing to do, but really sitting down with them and saying, what are your options and how can we make it so this doesn't happen again, and it's been as much as delinquent
What do you mean you can't fix the economy and,
I have said, please don't ignore the pink slips. By the time the property goes up for tax sale, we pay 33% in interest.
okay. Wow. This we do need to decide now.
Yes.
All right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I was ready to vote. I am, so.
Yeah.
I was kind of.
I feel I've
first
made up my mind. But I think you're absolutely right. I think just in fairness, Josh needs to be here, and also if we have a split in choice. To act, that way. And again, a week's not going to kill it either way, one way or the other. We don't need to be pressured by, the need for a headline. So.
Yeah. At some point, executive session, where I did not.
Stop saying things like that.
Can I do it? It's something I don't know.
But
That's all right.
do we have anything else?
No.
There's several other old business things there, but they all look like
Chemical feed plant is still September.
that's still September. The Gassett Road building hasn't quite fallen down yet.
Not yet.
I rode by that recently.
We've rented the facilities, the fire station, the whole driver's ed thing happened, but I still haven't written a clear policy on it.
So we just charge double until we have a real policy.
It went well.
And the town hall fire escape steps, well, I'd say stay off them until, we're not using the upstairs, so.
No fires.
So it's unlikely anybody's going to be up there to use them, but
We need
at
to
some
get that
point,
looked
I
at.
should have asked Pip about that if he knew somebody that might be
Oh, I can ask him when he comes in.
qualified to, he probably knows somebody with a long title and a number of degrees that could make the educated guess that all of us could make by looking at it. And simply saying these iron bolts are rusted, the connectors of the stairs are substandard, needs to be taken down, cleaned, bolts replaced, and,
Maybe it should just be
refastened.
Maybe it should be that we just put out a request for
A restoration of it, and, it's a beautiful thing.
we were kind of waiting for somebody to look at it, but maybe I just need to call around and get quotes.
It also, is, if it's not appropriate to it, then it becomes a historic artifact and gets used in another manner, another fashion. Or we put it up for sale and,
The fire escape?
I know, oh God, I know. That's like, but Hey, we sell old fire trucks and things like that all the time.
Never know what
we
people will buy.
I think someone would snap those stairs up.
Yeah, probably.
Absolutely. Those are, an architectural gem. Those would be, in some 2-story, $1 million apartment, something like that. Buff
Yeah.
those things up. They're lovely things, those stairs.
Would you like to buy that?
If I had a client, that
Yeah.
was interested in something,
keep your ears
that's
open.
right. But that's.
Are we adjourned?
I was just working us
Oh,
towards
sorry.
that.
I thought we were just chatting.
Wait for it. So I have to wait for Stephen to make the motion.
Oh, am I supposed to make a motion? Oh, motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. So.